Now, taking on this game is a massive, massive undertaking, okay? And I decided to do some research after I kind of made an incorrect statement that there weren't a lot of videos out there. There's a lot of videos out there. They're very dry, and that's not the people's fault. This is a tough thing. So how do you keep this lively and entertaining and something that you can watch and focus and not go, okay, I remember this part, but when I get here, I'm starting to get lost a little bit. It's to simplify it, I think, and break it into very small chunks and try to make it as easy as I can and explain it to you as I see it. Now, another reason to do it in small chunks is very simply this. If I make a mistake, there's some of you guys that are out there that are experts that don't make videos that are going to see something and we can correct it early. So the comments are very, very important here. And this is where the interaction is really going to work. So I'm going to walk you guys through just a little bit, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to go through this thing a little bit at a time. So, as I said, we're going to get started and we're going to work our way all the way through the entire first box, which is Beyond Valor. Now, this is going to be a very long series. There's going to be other War and Pieces in between and with this. So I'm going to try to do these at least once a week, maybe every other week, depending on schedules. But we're really going to have fun. We're going to keep this down to about 10-15 minutes if I don't ramble too much, and make this where it works for you guys. So, hey, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? So let's head on down to the table. Okay, so what are we looking at down here, okay? What we're looking at down here is just basically some units, but we're really looking at the terrain there. Now, as you can see, that is what they consider open ground. Open ground is only one, it costs you one movement point. And we'll talk about movement points a little bit later. Movement points are how you move into each square, and there is a cost for them. For open ground, it's only cost you one. Now here you have woods. Woods cost 2 to go into. So that's going to affect how you decide to go into there. Now, woods also give you a TEM, which is Terrain Effect Modifier. So being in there, you have a terrain effect modifier that's going to affect how people can attack you and how you're going to shoot out as well. There's obstacles, which woods is an obstacle, and you can rally inside the woods. You can get a bonus in there. Now, as you can see, there's plenty of roads here. Now, with the roads are just one movement cost. They have no terrain modifier, there's no hindrance, and no rally bonus. In season, they're treated as open ground and +6 to the hindrance blocks of LOS, which we'll talk about later. There we have a stone building. A stone building is a costs 2 movement effects to go into that square. A movement factor, excuse me. And also adds a +3 to your terrain effect modifier. Now we're going to go back. I'm just showing you what the board is like a little bit and some of the obstacles and things that you're going to run into. There's also orchards and stuff, but this is the main meat of the game, and that's the components. Now right there we have what is called an SMC, a single man counter. Okay, that first number there, that 9, is morale. The second number is leadership modifier. That's the leadership within a cohesive unit that they can give. They'll give a modifier which will help them. On the other side, when they take damage, as you can see, that is a squared in 9, which we'll explain that a little bit later, but it pretty much means that he cannot give a rally anybody else, but he would have to rally himself to be able to give any kind of modifiers. Next is called a half unit. Okay, this half unit is half a squad basically. Now the first number there is their firepower. They have a firepower of 3. When we talk about combat, that number is going to be very, very important. The second number is the range. How far, how many hexes can they shoot in clear terrain, okay? Because as we talked about those terrain modifiers, they do come into effect as obstacles cause blockage and so forth and so on. And the last number, of course, is a 7, which is actually the morale. Now that number up top, E, is actually the class of the unit, and the G down in the bottom, all that is to identify the unit. Now as you can see, that number 6 up in the top means nothing, but down there, if a unit takes damage, it gets flipped over, and the morale goes down to a 7. Now we're going to talk about a full squad, or an MMC, which is multi-man counter. Okay, as you can see, they have a 7 firepower. Okay, that 3 is a smoke exponent. The next number, which is a 4, again is the range. The underline we will talk about later. This is all going to come together, of course. And then, of course, 7 is the morale, D is to identify, and E is the class, which we are showing right now. Now, once you flip this over, again, you can see that the morale goes to an 8, okay, and those other numbers do not count for this particular unit, this particular expansion, shall we say. So we're going to back off a little bit, and I just want to show you the different colors. The green, of course, are the Americans, and the gray are the Germans, as you can see. And they have the same type of numbers. As you can see, there's an E circled, but we'll explain that a little bit later, because we're all going to feed this into one whole video, which will be very simple, and once you hear some of these things, and it's going to be a lot of repetition to talk about these particular things. Now, the 2 maps that come with the Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit 1, here they are. It's map A and I believe map Z, if I'm not 100% sure. As you can see, you're going to be playing on different map boards for different scenarios. It comes with a bunch of different scenarios and tell you to either use both maps, half a map, one map, entry points onto the map. Very detailed, and we're actually going to take a look at those very, very soon. Now here, we're taking a look at retaking Hersville, excuse me. This is the very first scenario, and as you can see, the counters fit right in the spot, so it's kind of good when you pop them out. You can gather your forces, and underneath there you can see that there is a number, and that's how many of that particular unit you would need. Up in the upper left hand corner there, it tells you the victory conditions that you're going to need to know. On the very bottom, you're going to see special rules, if there were any. Also, any kind of conditions, like we're looking right over there, and there's the actual map that we would use and where they would come in. But the balance is if you want to be able to balance the forces. It gives you a historical detail of everything, as you can see. And if you just put those units, as you pop them out into that particular area, you can keep track of everything until you can set up the entire board, which makes things 100% easy. The starter kit comes with a quick reference data guide, okay, and we're going to really talk about this quite a bit. Now, as I was talking about earlier, I was talking about the units, and this is something that we're going to talk about, those numbers a lot. The first number is firepower. The second number is range. Here's the terrain chart that we were talking about, how this all works. The terrain effect modifiers, the hindrance, and rally bonus, if you're able to do with the terrain. This chart is really going to break things down for us and make things a lot easy. Also, the PP chart, which is portage points, represented how difficult a SW or support weapon is to carry. Those numbers come into effect with different types of units. That is something that we really are going to take a look at probably around the second or third scenario, but this first one is going to be very basic, and it's going to get us to start to do things. And we're going to run through each scenario, and we're going to play it pretty quick. We're going to speed it up, and we're going to talk about it quite a bit and everything that we do. The whole point is to make this so much easier for you guys, to really break things down. Now in the next video, we're going to be talking about combat. And as you can see on this side, this is where the combat chart is. Okay, the combat table is how you figure out. You have a chart for a single man counter. You have a chart on the modifiers and everything that you work out, and when you finally roll a dice and what kind of damage it does to that particular unit. Does it cause it to scatter and break its morale, or do you outright kill it? These are things that we're going to be covering going forward. In our next video, we're going to really be talking about combat. But I kind of wanted to show you in this video everything that comes in this and how this all works together. And we're going to be talking, like I said, I'm going to go over these numbers again and again and again in each video, so you don't feel like you're left off, that it's only said once. The combat table, as I'm trying to show you right there, it has different variances. So you roll on the table like a KIA is killed. Okay, boom, done, gone. Pull the chit right off. Okay, and then there's how to, you can make a shot that'll kind of do a glancing and cause them to have to do a morale check with a penalty and stuff like that. There's a lot to this. Okay, but together, I think if we all work together, we are going to get through this. The comments are going to be very important. If you feel I'm doing something wrong or handling this the wrong way, that's okay. We can fix it in the next video. So there you have it. The very first video, what were the main things that we talked about? Well, we talked about the chits themselves, okay? And we broke down those three numbers. The first one, for movement, we talked about terrain, how there are penalties for going in certain areas. The second thing that we talked about was the second number. And the second number is important, and that's the range. How far can that particular unit shoot in hex-wise? Which, if you guys have played any game lately in the last 2 years, there are ranges and movement values. Okay, morale. Morale is a big thing in this game. You can have a perfect unit going and being able to chug along, but then all of a sudden, if you get broken, it's not that easy to reassemble, because fire, if somebody's firing at you, you get scared. I don't care who you are. And we've talked about the different types of units here. We talked about multi-man counters. We talked about single man counters, and we talked about half squad counters. Okay, they all have different things, and we turned them over and also looked at when they are routed, or when they become their morale gets broken, and we flip them over and we see what we have to do to get them back. So those three numbers are the main basis of that, and our terrain. So those are the things that we covered this week. Next week, we're going to get to that thing that everybody loves, combat, and how it affects the unit, and then why that morale number is so important. And we're going to work this nice and slowly into breaking everything down a little bit at a time to get ourselves to the point where we get to run this very first scenario. And we're going to do it together, and we're going to get through this. So I appreciate all your comments in the bottom. If you are new to this, hey, hit the subscribe button. Stick around. There's a lot of cool stuff to see. That's it for this week's War and Pieces, guys. I will see you next week with some more Advanced Squad Leader. Probably one of the greatest games ever made. Until next time, I'm Rob Warren. We'll see you soon.